Thanks for joining another episode of The Wandering Middle Eastern Teacher. So today we're changing things up a little bit. We're going to talk about learning language, especially learning Arabic. So Arabic is definitely a beast of a language. Like if you look up the rankings of what's the most difficult language for especially an English speaker to learn, Arabic is in the top 3. So that's encouraging if that's what you set your sight on. But at the beginning, just start by giving some encouragement. I've really found in my time trying to learn Arabic and in the people that I've worked with and helping them learn Arabic as well, that it is really about effort. That you put in the hours, you will learn it. Everyone can learn Arabic. It may take a lot of work. It may take you a lot more work than it takes someone else, but you can do it. The first thing I think we need to talk about in coming up with the best way to study Arabic is to really look at your goals. Obviously, the best thing you could do to learn Arabic would be to be immersed in it, to be in an Arabic speaking society, country, where you're just around Arabic all the time. Because that's the most natural way. It still takes being intentional to learn in that environment, but that is where you're going to pick it up. And that's obviously why so many universities offer study abroads, immersion programs, intensives, because it really does work. But not everybody has that much time. So we're going to talk about some other options, what you can do no matter where you are in the world. The second big thing you have to think about in learning Arabic is to figure out a focus. Doing either modern standard Arabic versus learning a dialect. So I'm not sure I really understood this at the very beginning when I started learning Arabic, but in most Arab countries, in most countries that speak Arabic, there's a huge difference between modern standard Arabic, in Arabic you'll hear it called Fusha, and that's the formal language of books, news broadcasts, things like that, and then what people are actually speaking on the street. The best analogy I've heard is that the difference between those, what's spoken kind of between people in real conversations and what's written in books, is about the difference between what Americans speak to each other and Shakespearean English. That different in the way words end, the grammatical rules and how strict they are, the vocabulary, so that we actually had some friends over here the other day who have spent most of their time learning formal Arabic, and most of our time has been spent on dialects. And we asked them, actually, my wife put them on the spot, asked them to speak in Arabic. And it was hard to understand what they were saying. And then when we spoke in our dialect, they didn't really understand much of what we said. So you just have to kind of, in the beginning, pick your poison. The advantage of studying modern standard Arabic is if you're talking to an educated person from anywhere in the Middle East, from Morocco to Saudi Arabia to Syria, they should understand what you are talking about, if it's an educated person. Now, if you're talking to a person, a rural person, a Bedouin, or someone who didn't complete more than maybe elementary school, they may not understand what you're saying in formal Arabic. But those dialects can be radically different between places. So more or less, I would say there are 5 different dialect zones of Arabic. You have North Africa, kind of from Libya over to Morocco, very heavily influenced by French, Spanish. For other Arabic speakers, it's a little bit challenging to understand that dialect. So you probably wouldn't want to pick that one unless you intended on really interacting almost exclusively with people from Northern Africa. Then there's Egypt. So obviously lots of Egyptian Arabic speakers in the world. It's pretty common to run across an Egyptian. Their dialect is just a little bit different, mainly in the way that they pronounce certain letters. They won't pronounce the J sound. It's more of a G sound. So at the beginning, it's a little disconcerting to try to understand what are they saying, because these words that are common that you know, but it's just pronounced a little bit different. And then another dialect would be the Shams dialect or the Levantine. So this would be Palestine, Syria, Jordan, and even some parts of Mosul seems kind of in Iraq seemed kind of similar to this dialect. And then there is Iraqi, Kuwaiti, and some of the Gulf is a different dialect. There are some unique things about that dialect. They have a ch sound that they use in their dialect. And then a Gulf dialect. Of course, every dialect will claim they are the most standardized, the fewest additions from other places. But the Gulf probably has more of a claim to that than any of the other dialects. So that's kind of some questions, things to think about. For myself personally, I was really interested in being able to communicate with people in Arabic. So focusing on dialect was really what I wanted to do, so I could be able to speak with people as soon as possible. If you're thinking more of an academic track, then maybe looking at formal MSA makes more sense for you. Just bear in mind, speaking could be more of a challenge in being able to understand others and be understood by others. So in the rest of the episode, I just wanted to throw out a few of the things that I've done or that I've heard others do in order to learn Arabic. So one of the things that I've done is use a program called GPA, Gradual Participant Approach. You can look online, there are lots of resources. In essence, the program is designed to set up learning a language the same way a child learns their language. So the idea is that from the first second of class, absolutely everything is in the target language. Nothing is translated. So the beginning, and they have kind of 6 phases or levels to the program. The first one is hundreds of pictures. So the teacher will just point to a picture and say what it is in the target language, and then ask questions to the student. Where is the book? Where is the goat? And then the student responds not by saying it, but by pointing. And the goal is that in this phase, the focus is on listening, being able to hear the sounds, especially because in a language like Arabic, there are several letters and sounds that don't exist in English and that an English speaker would really have no experience with. So if a student never really learns to hear the letters correctly, there's not much hope of being able to speak it and pronounce it correctly either. So that's the goal. And it goes on from there, levels gradually getting more complex and more interactive. In the second level, you have wordless picture books, and the student tries to describe what's going on in the picture. And then the teacher is there to help to add new words when needed. And then at the end of each class, there are recordings of new vocabulary. So if that sounds kind of interesting to you, or you would like more information on what the different phases look like, just leave a message in the comments, and I can make more videos going more in depth of what a GPA system would look like. So that's what I use the majority of my time in learning Arabic. Other things that people have used is kind of a barefoot model. It's been called different things. Some people will call it glue. Get what you need, learn what you get, use what you get. E on the end for evaluate. How did it go getting it that way? Do you need to make any changes to the system? So that way is a lot less structural. It's more of a flexible system. You could do it anytime, anywhere. You don't really have to do much training, but it can be frustrating, definitely at the very beginning. If you don't know how to explain to someone from that language what you want to do, and you don't know enough of it to really be able to talk. Other programs that I've used through public libraries, there is a program called Mango that has a number of Arabic dialects as well as modern standard Arabic. So I actually used that. I mean, it's great because it's free. As long as your local library offers it, the software, then you can download it and use it for free. So that was a pretty nice element. They structure it in learning dialogues. So they give you kind of a brief 4 or 5 sentence interaction between two people in the target language. And then they break it apart into the individual words in it. So they will show you a word in Arabic and then you have to say it. Or they may show you the English and you need to give the Arabic, or vice versa. So it was nice in introducing some new words and some dialogues already laid out. But it is kind of a problem that it would translate everything into English. So you had to be really disciplined to focus on the Arabic and not just wait for them to tell you what it meant in English. Another program that I've used in the past is Rosetta Stone. So it goes back to what we talked about earlier with picking your target. Until now, Rosetta Stone only offers modern standard Arabic. The system that they use to teach it is really good, and in some ways it has a lot of similarities to GPA, the gradual participant approach. At the very beginning, it's pictures, they'll say the word, and then you have to identify what pictures go with what words. Everything is completely in Arabic. There are no English translations of things. So that's nice. The difficulty is that's not the words that people really use to speak. So it's a little bit superficial. And of course, it's really expensive. $200. So that's kind of out of the price range of most people. If you're thinking of the dialect approach, I recommend checking out the website talkinarabic.com. They have resources for different dialects that you could look into. So if you're looking at the Egyptian dialect, recommend checking out Kalamni Arabi, a picture of it up right here. If you're looking into the Iraqi dialect, Kuwaiti dialect, a good resource is Modern Iraqi Arabic. And I'll put a picture of the book up on the screen. It's out of print, but you can find it still online to purchase. And if you don't have any qualms, if you look real hard, you can actually find the PDF online as well. But that's up to you whether that's legitimate or not. So if you decide you want to work more on the Shems dialect or Levantine dialect, there's a book called 101 Jordanian Verbs that's helpful, that I've heard lots of people use as well. But if you have a question about a specific dialect and what would be a helpful resource, again, leave comments down below, and I can ask people I know in various places and see if I can come up with any resources that might be more specifically helpful for the dialect you're trying to learn. Those are basic strategies, programs that you could use. But at the end of the day, it just takes time. I will give one kind of big piece of advice. Arabic is hard, and it really requires a lot of focus. When I first started teaching overseas, I was trying to do my job as a full-time teacher, and then after school, 2 times a week, learn Arabic. And it really became more stress than it was worth. It was really hard to focus. I did it right at the end of the school day, which is probably a horrible idea to begin with. I was brain dead and had no energy, so focusing on another language for 2 or 3 hours was just a waste of time. So if you can set aside a time to really devote all of your time to Arabic, it does help so much. You can definitely learn it doing it kind of bivocationally, working a full-time job and learning Arabic, but it's going to take a lot more time and probably be more stressful as well. So definitely recommend if you can set aside a block of time and really have nothing else that you're focusing on. So those are some tips about learning Arabic. Hopefully that's helpful. Stay tuned for next time. So later this week, we should have a video up for you. Another video about teaching and looking into some basic strategies for reading and engaging in the classroom, and even some behavioral management strategies as well. So once again, I'm Abu Laith. Remember, if you like what you saw here, like this video, subscribe so that you'll be notified anytime there are videos in the future. Thanks for stopping by, Wandering Middle Eastern Teacher. See you next time.